Hello everyone, Spectrum here, and today's video is about the Roman monarchy. Now, given I've already made a video precisely about this topic, you may be asking, why are you doing this again? And basically, the answer is I intend to deliver something that's hopefully better edited and pasted, and furthermore, this is merely the first of many videos I'll be doing about ancient Rome. In fact, assuming I'll upload one video every week, I have enough material for the next 3 years. The Roman monarchy is a period of Roman history which lasts roughly 250 years, beginning from the foundation date of the city in 753 BC to the fall of King Tarquinius Superbus and establishment of the Roman Republic in 509 BC. A lot of the events as detailed by the Romans throughout this period and even during the early Republic should be taken with a grain of salt, as we don't actually begin getting a clearer picture of Roman history until the Gallic sack of Rome in 390. In total, there were 7 kings of Rome: Romulus, Numa Pompilius, Tullus Hostilius, Ancus Marcius, Tarquinius Priscus, Servius Tullius, and Tarquinius Superbus. Each of the 7 kings will be given a video of their own, but I'll briefly go over them as each left a lasting impact. The first king was Romulus, he of the legendary myth of Romulus and Remus, the descendants of Trojan hero Aeneas. He founded the city upon killing his brother, established the Senate, created its first army, and ensured the continuation of the city through some outright immoral methods. He also founded the first religious institutions, but in this aspect he had nothing on his successor. Said successor was Numa Pompilius, and he is the main contributor in religious matters in Roman society, establishing many of Rome's most important religious and political institutions. He also introduced a 12-month solar calendar. Numa was very much a peaceful king, but the Romans would abandon peace after his death. The third Roman king was Tullus Hostilius, a warlike king who abandoned the peaceful policy of Numa and engaged in wars. Most notably, he is credited with defeating and destroying the nearby rival city of Alba Longa. He would integrate the noble families from the destroyed rival city into the Roman aristocracy. The fourth king of Rome was Ancus Marcius. His most notable contribution in the Roman kingdom was in the establishment of the port city of Ostia, which may very well have been Rome's first ever colony. He spent much of his reign fighting against the other Latin cities in Latium. The fifth king of Rome was Tarquinius Priscus, an Etruscan by birth who managed to climb to the top of Roman society through his political savvy. He expanded Roman hegemony over Latium, expanded the Senate from 100 to 200 men, drained the Roman Forum, and built both the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's sewage system, as well as the Circus Maximus. The sixth king of Rome was Tullus Hostilius. His greatest contribution is no doubt the construction of the Servian walls, which would be the major walls of the city all the way until Emperor Aurelian. He also established the Servian tribes and the centuries, built the Temple of Diana, and instituted the festival of Compitalia. The seventh and final king of Rome was Lucius Tarquinius Superbus. Much like Tarquinius Priscus, he too was of Etruscan origin. While he further conquered various Latin cities and established many colonies, as well as building the Temple of Jupiter, his authoritarian methods would eventually bite him back in the end, as the actions of one of his children, Sextus Tarquinius, gave the Roman aristocracy a just enough noble cause to overthrow him. With his deposition, the Roman Republic was born. So we ask ourselves, how historically accurate is all of this? Well, it's likely the later kings do represent some degree of historical memory, but how accurate any of it is highly speculative. For starters, the site of Rome was already inhabited well before the 8th century, but it's possible these settlements came together around the middle of it. But this could have happened before or after. We simply don't know. The extremely lengthy reigns of each of the 7 kings is certainly a contributing factor towards having doubts regarding the authenticity of each figure, as the shortest reigning king was Ancus Marcius with only 24 years, which is actually a fairly long reign for the time. On the other hand, however, these reigns, while lengthy, are not entirely implausible. Many mythical monarchs are given these impossibly long reigns. One only needs to look at ancient Mesopotamia, but this isn't applicable to any of the 7 kings of Rome. Still, the fact that all kings of Rome were considered to have lengthy reigns is suspect. Most likely, Rome had more than just 7 kings. It is rather curious that the last 3 kings of Rome were all of Etruscan origin, and it can certainly lead to speculation about how influential was both the Etruscan culture and politics in early Rome. In particular, Tarquinius Priscus is credited to have introduced many Etruscan customs into the city, and it's widely thought his reign represents a period in which Rome was conquered by their neighbors to the north. The tale regarding the deposition of Tarquinius Superbus is basically the origin tale for the Republic. It may or may not have historical elements into it, and just between us, I actually think it does. However, it is very likely the king of Clusium, Lars Porsena, who was one of the first enemies of the Roman Republic, conquered the city and ruled it as a subject city-state. Basically, what one can conclude from this is Rome was probably a monarchy of some sorts during the 8th and 6th centuries BC, and that the city came under Etruscan domination during the latter stages of this period, be it due to conquest or due to cultural hegemony. There isn't any real reason to doubt the names of most of the figures mentioned in these tales apart from Romulus, who is clearly a back formation from the name of the city. Now, this would be the end of all of it. However, there's a considerably long gap between the end of the monarchy and the beginning of Roman historiography. 300 years, in fact. But there is reason to believe, at the very least, that Rome was already a monarchy before 509 BC, as archaeological evidence dating back from the 6th century backs that up. So ultimately, what the Roman monarchy is more or less the first half of Roman mythology, and, as told in the beginning of the video, the history of Rome doesn't begin getting a clearer picture up until the sack of Rome by the Gauls, and even then, it still takes a while for us to get a very clear picture, by which point, Rome is already a major power in the Italian peninsula and is beginning to throw it down against the Samnites, their biggest enemies until Carthage came along. All that being said, how did the Roman monarchy function? And I mean this in the political sense. Well, after Romulus, the kings were elected by the Curiate Assembly to serve for life and did not rely on military force to gain or keep the throne. The sole exception to this rule being the last king, Tarquinius Superbus, who basically ruled Rome as its tyrant. The king was given supreme military, judicial, and executive authority through imperium, which he would have for his entire life, thus rendering him immune from any type of prosecution. He was also given the power to appoint or nominate all officials to offices. This includes tribunes, bodyguards, and city prefects, and, furthermore, he was given the right to be the only person to appoint patricians to the Senate. This was exactly how Tarquinius Priscus secured the throne, as his expansion in the number of senators from 100 to 200 was a move which politically secured his hold on power, as these newly elevated senators would be loyal to him. Basically, the king of Rome was essentially an absolute monarch. The major difference found in comparison to many other absolute monarchies was the fact that the position of king was not hereditary, as upon a king's death, supreme power would return to the Senate, which would then appoint one of their own as an interrex, or an intermediate king, if you will, which would serve for 5 days with the purpose of nominating a new king for the city-state. If the 5 days had passed and no new king was named, another interrex would be nominated until the process ended. If the interrex found a worthy nominee, said nominee would be examined by the Senate and then had to be accepted by the Curiate Assembly. And if you're wondering about the power of the Senate when there was a king in office, it was basically very little, theoretically, but in practice it pretty much served as an advisor role for the king. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for watching this video. I know I hadn't uploaded a single video in like half a year. This was partially due to several new projects that were started and subsequently discarded midway through. And eventually I reached the conclusion the channel in general needed an overhaul and change in direction, hence all the new stuff you're seeing. Also, personal stuff got in the way too. I plan to upload a new video every week, but no promises there. Also, thanks so much to my patrons for their seemingly endless patience, but I'm back for good. This was Spectrum, and I'll see you soon.